Good evening and welcome to the Turn In podcast. It's a travesty in Tallaght. Yes, Dundalk falling to a 3-1 defeat. Early goal from Pat Hooban put Dundalk ahead, but Liam Scales and the Sean Gannon Thunderbolt give Rovers the lead at half-time, and then a third goal from Aaron Green really put the nail in the coffin. Joining me tonight is Donal, Dean and Gally. Gentlemen, how are you?
Evening.
Evening. Well, it's like back to the podcast at the start of the season.
So much optimism.
Who wants to go first? What happened tonight? Donal.
Go on, Donal. Hit us.
Okay, I'll lead off. Well, they started well. They got in front. They had a really, really good chance to go 2-0 up. They had the most Stonewall penalty I've ever seen not given. Now, if they'd gone 2-0 up, who's to say what would have happened? They still could have lost 3-2. But they gave away a brilliant strike. Could have been defended a bit better. And then another brilliant strike right on half-time. And it just seemed to knock the wind out of them, knock the life out of them. They didn't really get going in the second half. And then that last one was just the final nail, as you said. I'm not entirely, I don't feel like 100% negative about the performance. I think there was, like the first half, there was a bit of something there. I think there was some problems I had some problems with how the team was set up. And maybe not some of the changes, but a couple of things went against them in the first half. Sloggett's injury was a big one. And that just completely changed the game. And they never really recovered after that. Like I said, the second half didn't get going. And look, it's just one of those nights, I guess.
Yeah. Pingu, we were coming into this with a bit of optimism from results. We're unbeaten again under Vinny. And then tonight happened. What went wrong in your eyes?
I think a lot of it was the Sloggett injury. I think how we played in the first half hour or 35 minutes before Sloggett went off was very much how Vinny used to set up when he was in charge before. It was a lot more conservative than maybe Stephen Kenny would have played, and we're set up to catch them on the counter attack, which we did for Hooban's goal, and for the chance for the penalty shout. Hooban's other chance, it's catching them on the counter attack and defending well. It seemed, and probably what was the most disappointing for me. I feel it's a bit of a reality check tonight, because there has been such optimism since Vinny came back in and the results were going all right. And sometimes this happens when a new coach comes in, where you go on this upward trajectory and then it just comes crashing back down. And I would agree with Donald. I don't think it was. I think the first half, those first 35 minutes, I think they done their job. You know what I mean? We defended all right. Those first 5 minutes, I thought, like, when are these fellas going to score? Like, 'cause they were all over us, but we defended very well. I do have to say, Abibi is probably the most exciting goalkeeper Dundalk have ever had. And I say that because every time he punches the ball out, you're getting excited that hopefully a Dundalk player gets to the end of it and gets clear of it. But I just think Sloggett in the post. I said I wouldn't mention him in the post Chris Shields era, because that's what tonight is. It's the first time since.
Wow, we're 4 minutes into the stream, and there's who had that in the poster, lads.
It's our first time since the 28th of October 2011. I think James Rogers had it up earlier that we're in a era of Dundalk FC without Chris Shields. So almost 10 years since we've had that, and I think Sloggett done all right. I mean, no player is going to replace him, but he was doing a good job and just keeping everything kind of steady in there. And then we brought on Zahibo, but it looked like Vinny. It looked like from the sideline they didn't have a game plan. They didn't have a plan B for the situation. Then and the second half, I was texting someone. I said it looks like we're going to go route one, because that's just what he used to do as well. And we went that way, and nothing really happened for us. And nothing happened for a long power for Rovers in the second half either. But I don't think we ever really looked like we were going to score a second goal after half time, and just it's disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah. Gally, I mean, do we look at, was our formation wrong? Where did we think we went wrong in that? I suppose the tail end of the first half and the second half in particular.
It's hard to. I don't want to hammer on about formations. Like, we bring Patching back from Derry, and we were talking about it in the break. He seemed to be playing out on the right, and McElhenney was given that freedom role, which I probably would have played McElhenney a bit deeper and let Patching run, because that's what he was playing at Derry. It's kind of defeats. I get why you start him. Obviously, Vinny's going to put him straight in, bring him back. I think that's his third start at the Dundalk jersey, which is madness considering he's got he's such a run at Derry.
Yeah.
But he didn't really. It's not his fault that he's come back in. You know, we don't even know if he wanted to come back. He's been taken back because we're his club. But he just didn't really get going at all. It's not just his fault, but just when we're talking about formation. Look, we started well. I thought Hoban ran amok. I thought he really kept the right way, Gannon busy at right back. He actually surprised me how quick he is. Like, Gannon's quick across the floor, but Pat Hoban had the legs on him most of the night.
I presume that's what you think of in the first half, where he kind of chased the ball down in the corner and he kept running.
Yeah, got a corner out of it. Yeah, he actually, I'm surprised how quick he was moving, but it's just,
like,
again,
Pat's movement at the start of the first half, even for the first half an hour, was quite good.
Yeah,
we looked like we had something. I just noticed the same thing. I just thought there was a big gap out on the right. It didn't look like anybody in particular wanted to play in front of Djukovskis.
Yeah,
you know, it was like, well, someone's got.
And I think on days like that, you need a Dan Kelly. You need someone who look at, you know, they want to keep the ball. And Patching's good on the ball, but it just wasn't utilised enough. And like Pingy was saying, when Slavik goes off, you're bringing on Sahibo. He could be another junior. I don't know where we put him. I don't know where I just don't get it at the minute. I thought a couple of weeks ago he actually had a storm. I think he was playing. Was it Longford we were playing? I know it's Longford, but at the time we were Longford's equivalent, and I thought he had an absolute cracker of a match. But then, you know, we're talking 6-7 weeks later, and yeah, he done more wrong tonight than anybody on the field, in my opinion. You know, I just thought he's just not at the races. I know, look, he's come back in a couple of weeks out. But the Gulf, the first half was brilliant. One of the best first halves I probably watched all season. Like, not just Dundalk, just of all the League of Ireland. I thought it was a great game. It was a great advertiser for the league. I know that's cliche to say, but then when you come out, even a 2-1 down in the second half, I thought Vinny might have gotten by the scruff of the neck at half time. And it just, like, both teams really, like Donald said, both teams actually didn't really come out in the second half. It just kind of fell apart for everybody. But Rovers shown that they have that little bit extra, and that's why they're higher up the league than us. They just have that wee bit extra. Now, by no means is that extra Aaron Green. You know, to give Aaron Green an absolute Egypt like that kind of space, and for him to score on you like that, it's just frightening.
We'll go back there, Gally.
You know, it just showed the Gulf in class. There is that little bit. We've signed a lot of players in. Maybe they're not up for it for 90 minutes. But we seem to. Maybe it was just me. I know we had a lot of the pass in the second half, a lot of the ball, but they were going the wrong way. Everything was going back. Now, I'm open to criticism on that or being wrong, but it's just that everything was going back the whole time and back and trying to start out instead of just starting with the ball, and that kind of killed us a lot of the times. But yeah, look, it's disappointing. I've been more disappointed. You know, 3-1 against Rovers, team that's expected to go win the league. I'm not as disappointed as probably as it looks. You know, on paper, it's a bit of a nightmare. But I thought the first half alone, we definitely were worth a draw out of it. But the second half, we just didn't turn up. I mean, look, Richie Towell done nothing, and we didn't even capitalise on it.
Donal, I mean, it started so well. Michael Duffy picking the pocket of Richie Towell and Pat going on to finish. I mean, we all thought, this is great. This is exactly what we wanted from the Saviour's return, you know. And we looked good then, didn't we? Yeah,
that was the highlight of the season. Made in Chelsea getting the ball taken off him in midfield. But I think we were the way we were set up. We were set up to either be level or in front, and I think there was a point then we're going to keep talking about the Sloggett injury and the substitution, but it seemed like that was the point to move McElhenney back bring Dan Kelly in and put Patching in his proper position and then just have a go at it. Because I think I was saying that to you, like, the team isn't set up to come from behind. So once Rovers went in front, then you're looking at, like, we have to make a change anyway. So it just felt like that was just the right time to make that change and go and try and win the game. Again, like Finger was saying, like, that's the kind of setup that we went into in big games with Vinny the last time. And it can get you results, but there also has to be times when you're like, no, we're going for it. Like, we're in this game and we're as good as them. Let's go and try and win the game. Yeah. And that was my problem with it. Like, the first half was fine, but I just thought there was an opportunity to just go and put your foot on the gas and go and try and attack them. And we didn't do it. And then we couldn't do it in the second half. Couldn't get it moving. And I would, like, the one thing, Zahibo looks like he only wants to play in one single position. Like, he just wants to be the anchor in midfield and do nothing else. And I think when he came on, it highlighted this thing of, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not in, like, the sixth position. I'm wandering around somewhere else. And I'm just, because we saw that when he was playing with Shields as well, where the two of them would just end up following each other and not doing two different jobs. It's like he wants to do this particular job. And he, I don't want to say he settled in the last, like, 20 minutes, but he at least looked like he knew where he was supposed to be for 20 minutes. Yeah. But at that point, like, it's too late and you don't get enough out of him then going forward. So they do, not to mention Shields again, but this is the kind of thing that we were worried about. That, like, right, we have to figure out what the best midfield is going to be. And to be honest, that's probably the best team we're going to play for in the whole season. And for 45 minutes, we were all right, you know? So that's the same with Gally. Like, I'm not 100% negative about it. You know, the first half, there's enough to build on, I think, in the first half to, like, maybe if they could have fluked a goal from a corner or something in the second half, they might have gone on and done a bit better. But, like, I do think there was an opportunity there that they just didn't take in the first half.
I think you brought me on a new thing, and I'm going to call it optimistic pessimism. I think that's what
we just call the podcast.
I wasn't even that annoyed that we lost tonight, but it was a bit. But it wasn't that bad. Finger, you know, to concede just before halftime is a real sucker blow on that, though, isn't it? Even taking out the fact that it was Sean Gannon, but just to concede at that time too.
Oh, you're not allowed to say his name, Chris.
If there's a list of players I'm not allowed games like that's
€2 on the swear jar.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great finish by him, to be fair to him. You know, it was two great finishes by Rovers in the first half. I did just, obviously watching them in the during halftime, watching the replays, I wanted to see what the defending was like, because when we lost to Rovers earlier in the season in Tallaght, Mandrow had so much time in front of goal, I think for one of the goals, if not two of them. And Scales won, which again, fantastic strike. But the amount of time he had with three Dundalk players standing within 3 yards of him to actually pull off that shot that's inexcusable for me. You know, I think someone has to get in. I think someone was texting me and said Patching should have probably fouled him, took his yellow card there at the edge of the box. You know, Patching was right beside him and let him just run by him. And it's just little disappointments like that, isn't it? You know, where you look at someone like McElhaney, and albeit the free kick he conceded led to the goal, to Gannon's goal. Sorry, I said his name.
Another €2.
Yeah, but you know, at least he had the balls to actually go and foul him and give up the free kick there, rather than let the chance go in. It's just that's one thing that would be a little bit concerning for me, is from the first game in Tallaght against Rovers this season to now, we're still allowing that time on the edge of the box. And when you do it against better teams, the likes of the Rovers and that, to have players capable, and we've seen what Scales is capable of earlier in the season against us as well. You don't let players like that have that time on the ball, and that just knocked the wind out of our sails, you know, completely.
Gally, I know you were very critical in particular of the third goal as well, just the time we gave inside our own box and how high the ball was in the air and everything else. I mean, it's cardinal mistakes that we need to be cutting those ones out, haven't we?
Yeah, it's reminiscent. Now, look, we've conceded some shockers this year, but it's reminiscent of, was it the year before? Was it last season? The year we had a European run and we were just conceding headers left, right, and centre. And now the goal didn't come from a header, but the original ball comes in, flies over, takes out everybody, and it just nodded down to Green. And it's like, I know Andy Boyd's close, but when you've got, when you've got a BB in goals, you can't let shots. Like, I know, look, it's a great strike. It goes right across the goalkeeper, but a BB's, average at the best. So you can't allow shots like that to get in. And for Green to get that type of space,
turned and everything on it.
Yeah, like he's like their version of Junior. I don't know what he's like either, but he's it's awful to concede goals like that. Now look, I alluded to earlier on, there is that little bit of difference in Rovers. Squad wise, they probably are stronger. They haven't, like, I mean, when you're 2-1 up against Dundalk and you can bring on Danny Manders from the bench.
Yeah,
that says a lot. But yeah, we're beaten by. We've had a couple of wonder strikes go in tonight, but they're all preventable. Look, all goals are preventable. But when you give players like that so much, like even Gannon had a lot of space. Like, I know it's a great strike. He's put it away. The keeper's not saving it, but when you don't close them down quick enough, that's what happens. And it's 2 goals like that. We conceded 2 goals like that again tonight. And it's the same with Mandrew a couple of weeks ago. We're just not closing down quick enough. And look, we should have had a penalty. Manis pulls off a crack and save, but I actually thought it was over the line. I'd love to see the replay. I actually thought it bounced over the line. But look, sometimes to go in. We hit the post a number of times against them earlier in the season as well. It's just one of those nights. Critical of the second half, I just didn't think we were at the race at all. But look, we'd have to just concentrate on the first half, maybe, and hopefully they can carry that into next week.
Yeah. We will run our pizza competition with Tony's Pizzeria. So if anyone wants to comment in with their man of the match tonight, and if the panel agree with that, we will pick someone at random for it. Somebody who was at the game tonight was James Rogers, and James is going to just come in and join us, lads. Probably on your way home, James?
Yeah, I'm on the M50 here. Hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah, if you hear it bing, we know you paid your toll.
No, I'm already past it.
When Gally starts rambling, you're better off. Just let him go. Yeah. James, what did you make of the game tonight?
Yeah, look, it was... it started very positively. Obviously, thought we played some good stuff, and probably unlucky not to be 2-0 ahead. It was a dream first goal from a Dundalk perspective, with Richie Towell being slightly at fault. And look, I think the fact that they didn't get that second goal, look, I know you just said there, all goals are preventable, but sometimes you just have to throw your hands up and say, there were 2 cracking strikes. And then I suppose the disappointing thing for me in the second half was that, like, they registered 1 shot in the second half. Daniel Kelly put one over, they had a lot of the ball without really penetrating. And that's disappointing, because, you think Rovers weren't that great either, going forward. And it was probably a missed opportunity, but overall, like, I think, we're never happy to lose to Rovers, but I do still think we've made a bit of a stride in recent weeks in terms of the, how we're playing and that sort of thing. So hopefully it's still a small stepping stone as well to better things, with Europe on the horizon. And like, I think ultimately where the Dundalk are at the minute, you're not going to judge your season on your results against Shamrock Rovers either.
No. From our own point of view, watching at home, James, we just thought that this Sloggett injury kind of moved any momentum that we had, and the smoothness within the team. Did it seem like that from what you saw?
Yeah, definitely missed his drive in midfield. Zahibo came in and actually thought he did okay, but it was not very much in an attacking sense. Sam Stanton, I thought, was playing well, and it surprised me when he was taken off. I think that we lost a bit of our fight in midfield between the two of them. You're obviously missing someone like Chris Shields as well. You can't dwell on the past, but that's a type of game you do miss someone like him. Yeah. And I think, maybe Vinny got a little bit wrong, I think, with playing patching off the right, because I thought they had a bit of a field day up our right hand side there left at times. Now ultimately, probably didn't hurt us in terms of goals, but they got a lot of good chances from that between Gaffney and even Scales. So it's it's probably a new sort of problem on how you accommodate Patching, because I think it was the right decision to maybe throw him in because he's probably been the form player of the league. But a right winger he ain't, shall we say?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, James, did you get to speak to Vinny tonight post match? What was his thoughts?
Yeah, he was very disappointed with the penalty decision. Now I haven't seen a replay of it, but my initial thought was, how was it a free out? Because it looked like Scales landed on Duffy's back, so it can only be a foul one way. And Vinny did look at the replay and is adamant. He said it was actually a penalty twice, because he said there was a handball as well. And he thought that was a big turning point in the game, obviously, because you win that, you go 2-0 up. 2-0 up, yeah. Rovers' form hasn't been wonderful of late, and maybe their heads go down, and it could be a completely different game. I thought Damien McGrath, like his performance overall, like it took us 26 minutes to win a free, and it wasn't like there wasn't a few challenges that were worthy of them.
Yeah.
So that was probably the disappointing thing. So that was his big gripe, I suppose, from it. But like overall, I think he was trying to take the positives out of a defeat. In terms of, like, there was some good play in it, and I think, to be fair, it wasn't listen, you guys have been on countless pods more than you'd care to count at this stage about, like, after defeats and stuff.
Yeah.
And you're so demoralised, and, like, as I say, you're never going to be happy to lose to Rovers, never going to be happy to lose to anyone, but it doesn't just kind of have that feel tonight, I don't think.
Okay, I'm going to put you in the pessimistic optimism clan too then. There you go, Donald. You've got company.
Nice one, James.
You've got company in that. James, from being at the match tonight, 100 away fans in there, did that finally create a bit of a match day atmosphere?
Yeah, it was brilliant, I have to say now. I've obviously been lucky enough to be at a few of the games in Oriel, and maybe it's just that they're more segregated and it's a sort of more, I suppose, spread out venue, but you nearly wouldn't hear them at times. But I have to say the guys there tonight made fantastic noise from start to finish, and even to be fair, like the Rovers fans, there was only 1,000 at the match, but it actually felt like a real game for once. At times you're playing matches and obviously they mean things, but they have a sort of training ground feel to them, because you're like, even when a goal goes in, there's barely a shout, apart from on the field. So it was a fantastic addition to have, and like hopefully, I know we got sort of bad news in terms of as a country this week in terms of numbers and stuff, but hopefully it's not too long before fans are back, because it really just adds to the occasion. And look, I know it didn't go our way tonight, but I thought it was a fantastic game, and like unfortunately it sort of went head to head with Italy Belgium, which I'm sure most people were watching, but like that was as good as a match you'll see probably anywhere. And from what I'm led to believe, the Italy Belgium game wasn't bad either, but it certainly was a good advertisement for the league, I thought.
Yeah. Funny thing, just I seen at the very end of the match when I just seen it on the cameras when Vinny brought the players over towards the fans. A couple of the players were still in the centre circle, just chatting away. I think they forgot to realise they're meant to go over to the away fans to applaud them for coming. I think they just forgot. It's been so long. So,
it definitely made a difference for them. Like even before the match, like they had a few chants for the likes of Yarkovskis, who wouldn't have played in front of like that sort of crowd for Dundalk before. And like for him to hear them chants about him, I won't repeat them, but they, it's good for the players, and like as I say, hopefully it won't be too long. I think next week, we're back to for the European match. I think there'll only be small numbers in Oriel, but like I'm led to believe if they get through that round, there's a possibility they may look at the Aviva for the second qualifying round, which we've seen this week. Bowes get 6,000 in, which I think we'd all appreciate that, because 6,000, I think it did more than cater for the majority of the Dundalk fans. Certainly, everyone you'd get in Oriel Park on your average Friday night pre-COVID anyway.
Yeah. As far as I'm aware, we'd only be able to play the first round in Oriel Park. So if we qualify for the second round qualifier, it'll have to be Tallaght Stadium or an alternative venue anyway. One eye on that, James, I suppose, for next Thursday. What are the positives you would take from the match tonight?
Yeah, definitely. I think, look, there was good elements of it, and it's another stepping stone, I think. You can't take a team like Newtown for granted, but at the same time, they are a team you probably should be beating. And I think if they play like they did tonight, it should be enough in theory. Certainly over 2 legs, I think the dog, I'm cautious of getting cocky with this team or anything, but that's not what it is. But I do think that there has been an improvement since Vinny came back in. I think something he does need is to sort out, like, obviously Giuseppe Rossi left the club this week. He probably does need a bit of assistance in behind him. Like, he's no assistant manager. I think it was just Liam Burns helping him out tonight.
Again there tonight, yeah.
Yeah, and look, no disrespect to Burns, he has badges, and he obviously played at a fairly high level himself. But I think they're just missing bodies behind the scenes at the moment. So he did say after the game that he was hopeful of getting something like that sorted out in the next week or so. So it would be a big boost, I think, if you could get someone coming in sort of before the European match. Maybe just add a couple of new ideas and give him a hand, because I think, look, overall, I think we're in a better place than we were, maybe 3-4 weeks ago. So it's, if we can start building results in Europe, I think the morale will pick up as well.
And just on the talk of incomings and that, what's your general feeling? Are we to expect anything, James, in the next wee while, whether it's outgoings or ingoings in Oriel, do you think?
Well, look, there's a lot of rumours obviously circulating around players. Vinny is, he said tonight that he doesn't feel the need to let anyone go to add, but I suppose the difficulty they're going to have in adding at the moment is, everything's sort of short term again, and I think if we are to bring in players, it's possibly only loan deals, because I don't think the club are in a position where they can pay for a player at the moment. Like if they fancy a player at another League of Ireland club or anything like that, and equally, I don't think any player is going to accept a 6-month deal. So I think they're going to have to be clever in terms of their additions. They certainly need it. Like, you see the centre half situation, like, we probably all breathed a sigh of relief when we saw Boyle and Nadestad on the team sheet tonight.
Yeah.
Because, there was probably before the match, you're thinking one or both might make it, and what do you do then? So I think certainly they could do with another centre half, possibly even a goalkeeper, and I think they are the two at the moment. He seems happy enough with his midfield, and obviously I think up front you're probably well enough catered for with Hooban and McMillan. So I think it's likely to be defenders and possibly a goalkeeper as well targeted. But as I say, it's going to be difficult to get people just because of the short-term nature of something. If we've seen
so that N50 sort of steal your coverage, James. He's out here.
Told.
Yeah.
In regard to, like, he's got one hand tied behind his back to a certain extent.
Yeah, James, you're just starting to break up a wee bit there. Your vaccination must have been that great this week.
No, got the dodgy one.
If you do see an incoming, we're presuming that it's free agent. Somebody's just out of contract at the moment, are we?
Yeah, something like that, or like, I think they're going to look at the loan market, possibly from like the UK, where you might get someone like, we've seen someone like Yaros at Pats coming in and doing quite well. That sort of player that could benefit from playing playing European football and playing to a reasonably high standard in the Premier Division here as well. So it's not easy. Like I think with the Euros going on, a lot of like clubs in England they're kind of early in their sort of transfer window. I'm sure Vinny would have liked to have a few bodies in for the Newtown game, but it's not looking likely at this stage, and I think they're probably past the registration point anyway.
Mm-hmm. James, just before we finish up, we'll let you continue on the way home. Just if we look at the bigger picture in Oriel Park, I suppose the question mark, you kind of half touched on it there when you talked about how do we look at these for whatever deals, short-term deals or whatever. There's still that question mark over Peak Six commitment long-term to Dundalk and in Oriel Park. What's your feeling behind that? Do you think by next year they'll still be there, or is there still an interest from them to continue on this project?
No, I think they do want out now. Whether they drop it or not at the end of the season, if there's no interest or not, that's another story. But like everything's sort of geared up in terms of them, looking to move the club on. If you look at, some of the players that have been sold on, I know Chris Shields, it suited him personally, but they're gearing up to sell, in my opinion. Like if you look at the cuts being made, and it's very worrying that like as this goes on, we've seen players like, say, even Sam Stanton, I think, has grown in sort of stature in recent weeks. Mm-hmm. And ideally you'd be thinking someone like him could even be better next year, with a season under his belt, but you're not even in a position to sort of sit down and sort of look at contracts. Vinny, he's not contracted for next season, so it's all short-term thinking, and I think they will look to get out, but it's how they leave is the big question, because how that exit happens could.
I think Peak Six are known you're talking about them.
Depend, have a big say in where the club is.
He must be in your League of Ireland stream
and for the next few years.
Yeah, James, you're just breaking up a wee bit there, so we'll let you go and safe home. And look, we'll bring you back on another time. You're in Oriel Park, and there's less of a chance that Peak Six will hear you and cut you off. All right, thanks, James. I don't know if you can still hear us, but thanks, James, for popping in.
Well, we kind of get what he was saying. It's worrying times. It's kind of, you're coming to what are we now? We're July now, and season's finished November, October. Yeah. So it's really not like, it's only a few months. You're talking 16 weeks, 12 weeks. It's dire at the minute. Like, not to keep it on with off the field stuff, but it's I suppose it could be worse. It could be bad in relegation. But
if the results don't go, the players will always start looking over their shoulder. Where's my next move? Where am I going to go after that? And that's my fear, is that becomes all of their priority. And like last week we were optimistic on this, saying actually we're not that far off fourth. There's still something to be played for this year. My fear is that if we don't continue to be in that sort of a position, the lads will just be like, oh, come here, look, where you go next year? Oh, I don't know where you go next year, and that's the topic of conversation between the players. And this season just kind of dwindles away. We're less of an attractive package to sell on from Peak Six. So where does that put us? That'd be worst case scenario for me. But just look, it's interesting. I think Pingu, I bring you on this one, that Vinny's contemplating looking at his backroom staff and trying to get that sorted probably before the European thing. I think that's something that probably could do with addressing fairly quickly.
Yeah, look, that needs to be sorted ASAP, and that I think we said it on the first podcast after he got the job, you know, that most managers come in and the first thing they're asked before they even meet the players is who do you want to bring in with you.
Was it strange then to let Giuseppe go so quickly when he'd not known immediately coming in?
Yeah, we don't know obviously what went on behind the scenes there with regards to keeping Giuseppe, but it seemed, even though you seen Giuseppe on the sideline when Jim took temporary charge, it seemed like he was being phased out anyway, at least, you know, optically at games. Jim had Stevie Mack beside him. Now Vinny has at the minute Bornsey beside him, so Giuseppe might just feel like what is his role, you know, because the club always had an assistant manager, and then for the last 10 years we've had a fitness coach. You know, that's your staff kind of is just one assistant, a head coach and a fitness coach, until Vinny obviously got the job before he was qualified and had Giller in as first team coach, and then he had his own assistant in there as well. So it's just there's not a whole pile. Well, we don't know what coach contacts that Vinny has. Giller, who it would have been great to see Giller come back for the hat-trick. He's obviously gone up. He's the first team coach at Warren Point this year.
He's sailed the boat all the way around to Warren Point.
He has, yeah. So I don't know where Vinny's going to get an assistant manager from. But I think, did you say, Chris, when I was listening back on last week's episode, like Bornsey is the club's community coach.
Yeah.
If he's going to go in as assistant manager, and having seen Bornsey like when he was a player and things like that, I actually think he'd do a very good job as an assistant, even as a head coach in the future. If he's going to get that role, I think the club needs to announce that, and they need to address that with him, with Vinny as well. Because the two of them today actually seem to talk well, like communicate well together. I've seen a couple of times when it closed in on them. So you'd like to just find out what's happening on that front, and then if Bornsey's going in that, is the club going to operate without a community coach for a while? Is like who's going to do that role? Because I can't see kind of look at the same situation as Stevie Mack as the head of the academy. You can't do both jobs, so it would be just I would kind of like to know on that front. And then obviously there's stories about physios leaving and things like that. There is who is the current backroom staff, because that's a big thing. The players, and I know from being in it, like from being in there and being close to it, that's one thing the players need, is that continuity of staff. You know, people always said that the most trusted person on the backroom staff is the physio.
Yeah.
And we've just lost 2 physios, so who's coming in now is that's a very important role too, because
who's the opposition analysis? There is somebody there, isn't there, for that?
I mean, Jim said there is.
Yeah, no, I'm very certain there is actually. Now, just once I said it, I went, "Oh no, Chris, there is somebody there already."
Yeah. I did see on Oriel Web people were saying that Brian Gartland is doing a little bit of opposition analysis right now, right. But the last one was Shane Keegan. Yeah. And then he became manager, and then he didn't want to be manager anymore, and never went back into that role. You know, so. That's something that's obviously missing too, because we haven't set up well against most of the opposition this year. So
is there still that, you know, because it's not fully put to bed? Do you think, you know, the whole episode nearly that ran through with Dave Rogers that time, is there one last chapter in that little book, or are we done with that, do you think?
I think Roger wants the big job himself. You know, I think he does want that. So I'd be interested.
It'd be a weird dynamic if the two of them, you know, went for the role. One was favoured by, you know, the owner, another one was favoured by your director of football, and the two boys were obviously head to head for the job, and now they were told they have to work together. Yeah. Because it's like you just said, probably the assistant manager's role is quite key, because you have to be the critical thinking for the manager and probably question a lot of tactics, a lot of player selections, you know, and just be that soundboard to bounce off for a manager. So to have someone who you were going head to head with, you know, it'd be a weird dynamic, I would say, if it did happen.
Yeah, look, it was similar stuff happened under Sean when Sean McCaffrey came in 2012, because Darius had actually applied for the manager's job, and then Sean was offered the job on the basis that Darius would go in as his assistant manager. And I'm not saying, and to the best of my knowledge, I don't think Darius ever undermined Sean, but you could just that has to be playing on Darius's mind too. So it would have to. I just think we're just using that as an example in terms of Dave Rogers and Vinny. I just don't know how that dynamic would work. Because and we've spoke to Dave both on the podcast and privately. I think we've all chatted with him, and he's someone that's ambitious, and I don't know right now. He wanted to come in and make a real change at the club. And if he's got someone, two people over him, he's going to have Jim. 3 people, he's going to have Jim. He's going to have Bill, and then he's going to have Vinny.
Piling on him.
Yeah. So what is he going to be? Is his hands going to be tied? Is he going to be able to show what he could really do? I don't think he would. But who knows?
Yeah. Donal, what's your thoughts on the backroom staff and how quickly it is, and what sort of a candidate should we be looking at?
The unfortunate thing is the candidates that we should be looking at aren't going to want to take a 6-month gig. That they're in a contract at another club, or they don't want to take on a gig. Like Pinker just said, you're going to have anybody that's paying any attention knows that there's somebody at the very, very top of the tree that's, in control. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the problem. Like we had this, it went back. We had the same problem when we were trying to find a manager. That you're like anybody that would come in with a proper high caliber manager, you're like, they're not taking 6 months. They're not going to work under the conditions that they see and they hear about at the club. And I think the same thing's going to happen for coaching. I think it's incredibly important to have your coaching staff. It just seems like the most basic thing to have your coaching staff set up when you go in and take over. And the idea that Vinny's gone in, did he talk to Burnsy before he went in and said, Burnsy, you're on the dugout with me? Was that just something they figured out on the fly?
I don't think it was like the Shane Keegan thing, by the way, you're the manager. Out you go.
It's just.
Well, at least I hope it wasn't.
Yeah, we all hope that didn't happen. But no, it's like you can't. It all comes back to this thing of if Peak Six are going, then we can't really plan anything for the rest of the season. We have to accept that we might get a couple of players in a loan. I know Derry took in. I think it was Derry took in one some champion on a 6-month loan from the UK, I think, and we might be able to do that with a couple of players. But like you said as well, if a couple of results go against us and we get cut adrift in the middle of the table where we're not going to catch the top spots and we're not going to get relegated, no one's going to care. Yeah, and all of that stuff is hanging over people who you might be trying to get to bring in to coach the team. Like you get maybe some young coaches from somewhere. I don't know where you pick up a coach that wants to prove something. But
someone at the Bells or something, Gally, maybe.
Chance.
Gally, you're available actually.
I'm available, absolutely. Part-time basis. I'll do it for nothing. Bag of chips. I'll do it for a bag of chips.
That's the kind of financial deal I think.
Is that your phone ringing already?
Gally, just and on that, so what sort of a person is I presume Vinny's going to have to look at kind of someone on his close circle, or maybe someone he's done coaching with recently and pull them in short term, like the lad said.
Yeah, you'd have to think. I mean, Vinny's played a lot of League of Ireland football. He's got to know some. He's got to have someone. Maybe nobody likes him. I don't know, but he's got to have someone from his Longford days. A lot of them boys, pretty much anybody that played under Stephen Kenny's gone on to be a coach. Anybody that was kind of worked or salt have gone on to be. There's plenty of people there. It's just whether or not they'll come in, like Donal was saying, for the 6 months. I'd like to think they would. I mean, it's a chance to put your name in the window for another job if it doesn't work out. It's a chance to kind of change the fortunes of it. Probably the best team in the last decade, and before the end of the season. On the Rogie thing, Dave Rogers, I think the two of them could actually work well. But like I said, the dynamic would have to work. So the fact that the two of them applied for a job, if they can put that to the side, like Vinny's interview when he first came to the club was, look, egos have to be left at the door now. So for the good of the club, if it was on the table, I'd like to think they would take it. But look, like Pinky was saying, Rogie's his own man. He wanted the job. I think he would have been excellent at it as well. But I mean, if you thought there was a chance the two of them could go in and try something for a couple of months, look at like John Gill's a former, first division league winning manager, and he's come in as assistant. Technically assistant on paper, he was the head coach. But if you thought something could be done along those lines, but Vinny's got to know somebody. You heard somebody mention during the week, and it was in the August, I think Barry Kelly was his name. Was he the cousin of Gary's or the nephew of Gary Kelly or something? Yeah, so I'm sure we know someone. You're not in management or in coaching that long, or somebody doesn't pop. He's only done his pro license. There'll be unfortunately, there's a lot of pro licensed people out there that are not working. So there's plenty of people out there available. It's whether or not you'd like to. They'll probably have to live in the locality because they're not going to come up the road, from maybe Wicklow, Cork, any of that kind of crack. Yeah. But yeah, look, it'll be his decision, hopefully. But you got to do it yesterday. Like, there's no point in going. He'd be on his 4th or 5th game now in a couple of weeks, and you still can't. You got to get somebody on the side. And look, maybe it will be Bonesy. We don't know. Yeah. But there's not a lot of promotional work from Bonesy. You probably can't do a lot during COVID, so maybe it's the pair. Time to leave where he is.
Look, we'll. I suppose hopefully we'll see something happen on that fairly quickly. First game, lads, without Shields tonight, and
that's
I think it's
€2.
Well, the topic is the team without Shields, so I think we avoid John. This is going to be a horrible conversation if we don't. This is going to be a transition, and I think we said, even when Chris first came in, he wasn't always a starter because the likes of, especially when O'Donnell was in the team and stuff like that, kind of in 2013 onwards, he didn't get to start. We always wanted to see him in there, and when I suppose O'Donnell got the bad injury and stuff, Shieldsy really stepped in and showed his worth there. Is there potential in somebody we've seen even tonight that could do something? We're looking at Sloggett and Stanton, I suppose, are the two candidates that we'd look at who have shown maybe a small glimmer that we could do something.
Definitely.
Look at that. In like Flynn. Go for it.
I'm looking for this assistant manager job. I think Stanton has come on. I think his fitness levels have gone up. I think, first couple of weeks, I think Donald might mention the first couple of weeks, he didn't look like a footballer at all. But, we said that with a lot of players. I've definitely said it with a lot of players. But I think over the last couple of weeks, I don't think he's in that mould. We don't have a player in that mould. But I definitely think the two of them, it showed tonight, until Sloggett went off, it's not that we were looking for Shields not to be missed, but it felt fine. It felt okay, and it's just Sloggett going off tonight. I do think it could work Stanton and Sloggett, but I still say we need someone. I think Reggie said it as well. I think we're going to need someone on a loan. I was actually just glancing through players that are possibly, midfielders or centre half that are out of contract. There's a lot of Irish players that have played international football that are now out of contract. Glenn Whelan's sitting at home now. I'm sure he lives in England, but surely someone can say, look at Glenn, come over here, kick ball for a couple of months. There's a chance of European football now. I don't know if the window's closed for registration, but there's got to be someone, as harsh as it sounds, Shields has gone off the books, so his wages are now there.
Yeah.
We are paying probably Patchen anyway. Junior's gone, his wages are there. I know it's harsh just to say, the wages are there, but they're available now, so we got to go and look at someone. Would Conor McCormack come in from Galway? They're not high flying, I think he could do a job. I think we missed the boat on him a couple of times. Now he would have been understudied to Chris Shields, but I do think he'd be good enough to slot in there. He's a red card every 180 minutes, but look, that's you need someone like that as well, I suppose. But
I remember Shieldsy walking that tightrope when he first started as well. He'd walk out in the ref nearly give him a yellow card straight away because he knew
just to warn him.
It's just like, I'll just do it now.
But I think as somebody just said, the two boys, Stanton and Sloggett, would definitely start over Sahibu all day, twice on Sundays.
Bingo, I'll bring you in now then on that. What did you think?
I think Sloggett. I think Sloggett long term is a good fit in place. I look at, as I said earlier on, he's not going to be a direct replacement for Shieldsy. I don't think we're going to get a player that's going to directly replace him. But I did like the look of him. I thought Slog had done very well in the European qualifiers last year and around that time when Filippo came in and put him and Shieldsy together. And I think it'll be interesting. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see how badly this injury is tonight. With the European games coming up, I think any success is going to be vital around him being available. And it'll be interesting to see how much his fitness has improved this year in comparison to last year, to see if he can get through them and stay at that level. Because, I don't know if you remember, during the actual group stage of the Europa League and the later end of the season, he actually dipped because I think it was just too many games for him, Yeah. But hopefully he learned from that. I would like to see him. Stanton, I didn't get to watch last weekend's game. By all accounts, you were saying on the podcast he was very, very good. Tonight, I thought he done okay. I thought he gave up the ball a couple of times in dangerous areas. I just didn't see that enough myself. And with regards to Hebo, I mean, the jury's still out on him. Potentially, if you went a little bit more flat 4-4-2 or something like that, 4-4-1-1, maybe him and Sloggett might be able to work together. I don't know.
Where does Patching fit in then in all of this?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think you take him back from Derry to not play him. But I also don't think you play him on the right just as a token gesture. Like, you have to play him where he's been playing well, and in behind the striker, I think is a good spot for him. It might mean pushing Mac a little. It might be moving him out on the right, but I think he's probably a little bit more suited. He's got that little bit more flair to play out there. But this is, I mean, that's probably one good problem that Finney has is in the attacking midfield areas, you've got those options. But yeah, I think going back to your original question, I think Sloggett probably long term is who I would like to see as that replacement for Shieldsy.
Donal.
Yeah, I think we're obviously not going to get a like-for-like replacement for him. He's like an incredibly unique footballer. I think the leadership thing is going to be interesting. Like, saw a few people calling out the second half that, like, when they were flat, like, was anybody properly driving them on? I don't know whether he would have made any difference in that, but you've seen him do that kind of thing in the past, or even if it's just kicking someone up in the air to get everybody's attention back in, like, they just didn't have a spark in the second half. And whether he would have done that, maybe we're going to, as brilliant as he was, we might still look at him with rose-tinted glasses from now on thinking, oh yeah, Shieldsy would have sorted that out, or Shieldsy would have done that, But yeah, like, the two boys, I think Stanton and Sloggett is probably the two that should be playing together. They can bounce off each other. One can sit, one can go, and they're both decent on the ball. I think the first thing that came to my head though when there was a couple of rumours going around at the same time, but when Patching was coming back, my immediate thought was, all right, McElhenney's gone. Because the midfield, then you can just put Sloggett and Stanton in and put Patching in front if Fats has been I was going to say pushed out to the right, but pushed up the north. But that's what I was thinking. Like, as soon as I saw all that stuff happening, I'm like, yeah, there's like dominoes here, and I think that sorts out that problem of, like, where do you fit Patching in? Is like, well, if McElhenney's gone, he's just the number 10, and like from now on. Whether that happens or not, I don't know.
Lads, well pointed out. We've completely forgot to talk about Sean Murray in this mix of midfielders too.
The problem with Sean is he's so injury prone. Yeah, and then when he does come back, like I remember when he first started. Yeah, like I remember when he first signed for Dundalk, the first month. I remember Jack Bourne getting Player of the Month in the first season, and I felt Sean Murray was robbed of the League of Ireland. He got Player of the Month the very first week. It's just unfortunate it coincided with Jack Bourne at Rovers. He is excellent on his day. He's just so in and out. I think he leaves the big days for Europe, so hopefully, maybe we'll get a run. I think he's an excellent player. He's not Patrick McElhenney. It still remains to be seen whether Patching can turn it on for us. Look, it's only 90 minutes. But yeah, he's another option. He can play a bit deeper as well, but again, he just has rubber ankles. He just he can be very injury prone, and it's something again. When you get 90 minutes out of him, you're looking for 50 minutes, 60 minutes off him, and then bringing on someone else. It's one of them. But then again, that's what the fitness coaches are for, and the physios. When we have a physio, which we don't have in a minute, so he's going to really struggle. With no physio, he's going to really struggle to get fit. But yeah, look, it is an option. We probably unfairly probably left him out, but it's because we've seen so little of him. He's just you almost forget he's there, and even with the bleach blonde hair.
I think with Patching coming back, and the level of assists he was pulling up in Derry, and you see how even against Rovers tonight, the height advantage we had, and we just never really took advantage of that, though, did we? Like, it seemed like an obvious thing to maybe get the balls in or get our crosses in, and we wasted.
I said it in the chat before the game. Sonny had 2 point blank headers. He had 2 chances to go for a ball in the box. He did. I don't think he jumped for one of them, and it just hit him in the face. Like, he just for a centre half, he couldn't even jump and put his neck behind it and head the ball. Like, it was actually, if it wasn't so bad, it was hilarious. Like, head the ball. It's there in front of you. You're 15 foot tall. Head it. Like, it just made it was just laughable. And look, it went off in one here. But it was just, I just couldn't understand. It was a clear cut chance to get a chance on goal, and he just could not connect. It's not that he couldn't connect. It's like he just forgot how to move his head towards a moving ball. It was so, like that. Like, just when you said the height advantage, look, Patching's for the role Patching plays, he's a very tall, attacking midfielder. He kind of reminds you of Chris Forrester when he was at. Now, he's not in the same league as Chris Forrester, but he's that kind of player that he would have had at Pats. But we just didn't pressure him enough. When you consider that we were out jumped for the goal that led to Green scoring, and we shouldn't be really, because Jokovskis he's not a small fullback either.
No.
He looked slow tonight, lads. To me, he looked a lot slower than he did at the start of the year.
Maybe, yeah.
That's just an observation.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Look, he could well have a knock or something like that.
Yeah, he just didn't. He didn't look like he was getting at the fullback, like at the Rovers.
But
down
to
the
be
wing.
fair, every time I seen him bust it on, there was nobody in front of him to allow him to lay the ball off, to overlap. And then you looked on the other side, and Duffy and Lee always had a little link up from time to time, or they were close enough to each other on the touchline to do little intricate plays. But on the far side, there was just nothing.
Well, this is the thing, and I seen this. I don't know if I seen it on Oriel Web earlier, or if I seen it on Twitter. But someone was asking, or someone made the comment that probably one thing that Filippo done that they actually agree with is that he was brave enough to drop Leahy and bring Dummigan back. Who Dummigan went out on loan under Vinny and didn't get much playing time. And tonight probably would have suited when you look at the game that Sean Gannon, Donald, that Gannon had on the
twice
on the right side. Would it not have been better off having Jokovskis playing down that side with the pace that the right back for Rovers has? And maybe playing Dummigan out wide right. Dummigan's actually had a decent season, and since Vinny's came in, I think he played the first game for Vinny, but Leahy's been in there ever since. So it'd just be
freshen it up, sort of a thing as well.
Yeah, but I'd like to get your thoughts on it. Like, what is Dummigan going to be out of favour, do you think, now? Because it was before under Vinny. Is it just a case that Vinny doesn't rate him, or?
I think Dummigan, though, is one of those that can play either wing. So he's kind of, whether he likes it or not, I think he's kind of got that utility player label over his head. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, and Jokovskis is a little like that as well, that he'll drop one player in and swap him over, or you can see Dummigan sometimes can be swapped over as well. So in that sense, he hasn't made himself 100% nailed down in one position.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably been his downfall.
I suppose I'm only really asking because I don't think Leahy had a great game tonight. I mean, he was a fault for the first goal.
But for the previous two games, I thought he played really well. Yeah. But what we need to be doing better is just seeing where these players are peaking, and just as they're about to drop off, is be able to get somebody in who's just as hungry, and that maintains that level in the team, instead of waiting for Lee, like tonight, say that maybe it wasn't one of his better games, but can we bring someone else in there that's just a little bit more hungry who can equally do his position?
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Look, this disappointing thing for me tonight, and I flagged it in the group, was that Rovers' run of late hasn't been great, and every time they played a team that got a result off them, they played two up top, and we decided to play one up top. Played obviously clearly right into their hands. I think them playing three at the back, especially with O'Brien not playing of late, I think their organisation at the back hasn't been great, and we probably should have targeted that a bit more. I think McMillan needs some minutes on the pitch as well, and that would have been a chance for the two of them to play together.
When you're talking about players wanting to move on or players potentially moving on, if I'm David McMillan, I'm thinking I need to get out of here to get games, because he hasn't had a bad game for the club since he came back, really.
No.
And again, he's just not getting a sniff. And I see a lot of comments coming in suggesting Hooban for man of the match, and I fear that that's what the choice is going to be. But he done well for the goal. The first half he worked hard, but the second half when the chips were down, he was anonymous. He stands around.
Most of the players were though.
Yeah, no, they were, but he's one of our best players, or he's been labelled as one of our best players since he came back, and he's talked up as a leader of the team when he's out on the pitch. But all he does is moan at everybody else when things aren't going our way, and you need your striker to work, and that's one thing that Dave McMillan might not have certain qualities that Hooban has, and might not be as clinical in front of goal as Hooban is, but he works his arse off. You can never fault him for work rate.
You may wrap this up now and give us your man of the match as part of this.
Dave McMillan. But I would honestly, if I was McMillan, I would be contemplating like, am I going to stick around here, or if I get a good offer in the window, am I going to move on? Which that'd kill me, because he had such a good end of season last season, and he just hasn't got a sniff this year.
Yeah,
so who is your man of the match after all of that?
Are we doing man of the match now?
We might as well do a round. You've kind of brought it up today.
I'm going to say not Hooban.
You can't say it.
No, I'm going to say I don't know, actually. I'm going to say the supporters. I don't have a man of the match because I don't think anyone stood out really, so I'm going to give it to the supporters because they were back and it was great.
Donald.
Yeah, I find it really hard to pick someone as well. I mean, I'd be scared to pick.
I just have to pick someone.
No, I'd be scared to pick Sonny in case Gally goes bananas, and I would be scared to pick him in case Finger leaves. So I was tempted to just give it to Love Island for falling over and giving us the first goal, but I don't know.
Love Island. We made Chelsea and Love Island from tonight.
I don't have a third one, so that's the last time we're going to mention it.
It's all right. Look, we got Sloggett in for you now. Are you happy?
Yeah, if I was going to pick anyone, I would pick Sloggett because the game changed when he went off. So
it's 2 minutes ago when you had your time.
That's my pick because the game was turned on its head. So David, congratulations.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, if you say Sloggett now, we're in big trouble because that's the only name I've seen in for Sloggett. This is a coup from pulling this from underneath me, lads. I see what's happened. Who'd you pick, Donald?
I picked Hooban. That's it.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Sorry,
yeah.
I missed that.
I'm picking Hooban.
Grand.
There you go.
Yeah,
This is going to go one way or the other now with you.
Thanks for bringing me on this podcast all these weeks, but that's been done. So
I'm going on holidays next week.
It's it's hard a bit. If you only watch the second half, you'd be wondering why we're giving away a pizza. But just on the first half and the fact that he scored a goal, yeah, look, I'll go Pat Hoban. I don't think I picked Pat Hoban the whole season. And like, it's one of them. If Sloggett stays in the field, he gets it. But no, Pat Hoban for me, because there's nobody really impacted the game as much as he did. So, he scored a goal. He's ran Gano. Sorry, the right back for Rovers.
Nobody impacted the game. What are you on about?
But no, Hoban for me.
I'm sweating again, lads.
Just based on the first half. Nobody done anything in the second half.
All right, hang on. I feel I've got to bring Pingu back in here for a second. Pingu, you all right?
No, I'm not.
So you do realise we got two Hoopin fights. Unless if I don't vote.
Yeah,
for
but
him,
you only ever pick Chris Shields and he's gone. So
wait, can I still not pick him? So if I go Hoopin as well, then that's, there's no chance you could be Sloggett. Even though I say you and Dave are both going, please be Sloggett now. Yeah, I think, look, for it to have been Sloggett, he would have needed to be on the pitch for longer, pal.
I know.
So
And it can't possibly be Sloggett when Hoopin done more than 45 minutes and Sloggett came off after 50 seconds. He's not even in the running.
no Shields, no man in a match. I like it.
That's a new mug.
Yeah, it's definitely a new bug on that one.
That just
we probably don't have any of the old ones left, have we, Galino?
No.
Kids have used them all up.
Popular demand, we get them.
Right, we'll do some more.
Yeah.
Right. Let me see, lads. There's a few in here. Give me 2 seconds here. It's mostly all Hoopin lads. So
you could share the pizza between the fans. Can you get a pizza to fit 100 fans? They can slice that pizza between 100 fans and just give them a slice pepperoni each.
I think it's only 8 slices, pal. And we let Jesus go this week, so there's no turning that into 100 slices. Yeah, I think. Yeah, look, it's definitely Hoopin. That's just it. Everybody else is all on that, and I think we'll give it to Eamon Collins messaging a fair bit on the show as well. So congratulations, Eamon. There is a pizza for you in Mazzoni Pizza. So just give our
Mazzoni
name.
Pizza.
Tony's Pizza.
Tony's Pizza.
Not Mazzoni Pizza. Tony's.
I'm off, lads.
You're some boy.
That's what you get for picking the wrong man to match, Chris.
So on to Thursday, lads. What do we think is Nick? What's a decent result here for us?
I think you'd expect a win. You'd hope for a win, and it's a good break from the league, which I think is needed too, and it might freshen things up a little bit. Getting the team away for a few days when they're allowed. They won't face any backlash for this unless we lose.
Let's say Thursday is just a 1-0 win for us. Like, is that a poor result, or?
I think any away win in Europe has to be a good result, But
what about the fact that we're playing at home?
Oh, we're home this week, are we? I thought we were away first.
You go get a Mazzoni pizza after that. We're sticking with Tony's Pizzeria here.
Are we at home first? Are we?
We are. Yeah. Because I'm working on it. That's the only reason I know, pal.
Okay.
But you are right. A 1-0 win away would be great, provided it's not 4-0 defeat.
Right. So back to my point then. Is 1-0 on Thursday an acceptable scoreline, or are we kind of saying, Jesus, lads, we should have put 4?
You'd like to think, and I'm not trying to underrate, the Welsh team, but you'd like to think you could put it to bed at home, and not relax, but you'd like to think that's the ideal scenario. But this team's so in and out. It's I would take, provided they keep a clean sheet, you'd take that, but. 1-0, 2-0 would be great, but a clean sheet, you want to concede an away goal going over there.
No, away goals don't count anymore.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if we were.
Is that from this year?
Yeah, starting now.
Oh, right. Well, then 2-0 then. You want 2-0. Pizza for everybody afterwards. Is Chris going into soft focus now?
It is so.
He's just that annoyed up.
He's just looking. He's looking. Mazzoni. Why did I say Mazzoni?
Yeah, but look, if you can get a win, if you can get up in them, ideally a 2-0 up, a 2-0 is great. But Chris is that annoyed. I'm sorry, folks, if anybody's watching this, but Chris is just going into absolute soft focus here.
Come on, anyway, Gary.
But any kind of win with a clean sheet is the ideal scenario. Because if you concede goals, even if they're not counting it, if you're conceding goals, it's bad anyway. You don't want to be conceding goals at any level. And it's just. I was talking to someone today. It's just such a pity that the draws come out this year and we can't go to it. It's just the ideal draw for everybody. The 1 year, and it's such a pity. But it's the crack on the boat going over would have been absolutely sensational. There he is.
Danny stole me Wi-Fi, lad. Sorry.
He went to get it. He went to get him his ownies. But any kind of win, and if you can keep the ball in your own net, look it, you'll take it.
Yeah, you know
we go around everybody on this. What happened?
The worrying thing is like something you said, Gally, and something James said, and something I've said to somebody else, and it's the phrase that you can't take
like Chinese whispers. This hang up.
You can't take anything for granted, but
right,
we all think we're going to win.
Yeah.
So we're all taking this team for granted. We have absolutely no idea if they're any good or not.
No.
We're just assuming they're playing Wales, we're going to beat them. And
well, they have a part-time outfit in Wales, like so.
Yeah, I understand that, and that's the thing of like you don't want to take them for granted, but we're all doing it. So like a 1-0 win seems fine to me. A win in a game seems fine to me. Especially with no away goals. We're like, it doesn't matter what score. Let's just win the 2 games and they're through. So
yeah,
I'd be happy enough.
Do we do a score prediction for this?
2-0 for me.
2-0.
Bang, straight in.
That's it, Gally. Love it.
No kissing, no dancing.
Wrapped up. I like it. Pingu.
4-1 Dundalk.
Ooh.
Hoping
Pat Hoban has to score then,
Good
Pingu.
hat trick, and that'll really sicken you. Donald.
I go 2-0 as well.
2-0 as well.
Safe, conservative.
I'm going to go 3-1. Throw that one out, lads.
Both conceding.
To
goals.
who, Chris?
You don't worry. But look, it's a silly thing that we're kind of throwing it out. We know nothing about this team as well, so it's a shot in the dark, isn't it? The game will be available on the Watch LOI platform again for ourselves. So anyone that's on that subscription, at least we have it. There's no confirmation about the second leg yet being televised or anything, so that could be send LMFM over so we can listen.
They might take us over with them on the plane. They might take us over on the boat, which is you can start filming from over there.
Yeah, look, the unfortunate thing is then everyone will have to quarantine straight after, so it's far from ideal.
It's not anymore anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Perfect. Gentlemen, I think we'll leave it there tonight. Thanks so much. Thanks everybody for commenting in. Thanks to Tony's Pizzeria, because we nearly mentioned a rival more than anything else tonight. Not the result we wanted, but look, let's hope for maybe this is the kick up the arse that we needed before Europe starts, that we don't rest on our laurels in any way. We'll be back in post-match after that if everyone else is around, and Donald can produce everything again. Thanks, Donald.
Donald.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Eamon's going for a 4-0 win, lads, on Thursday.
4-0. Screenshot that. Yeah.
Yeah, that pizza's cracking. He's having already. Perfect. Gents, thank you so much. Thanks everybody for commenting in. We will be back, as I say, on Thursday night after the Newtown game. So until then, how do we end this with no Steph?
No Steph, better podcast.
No slog it, no pizza.